Good evening and welcome to the Westmeath Independent Sports Awards for 2020. Normally, these awards are hosted at a gala event in the Shamrock Lodge Hotel. But this year, due to the restrictions caused by the COVID pandemic, we are hosting the awards in an online digital format. Later this evening, my colleague sports editor Kieran Galvin will announce the identity of our 5 winners this year. Traditionally, we select 12 monthly winners and a number of overall winners. But this year, due to the impact of the pandemic on the sporting calendar, we are hosting a condensed version. I'd like to acknowledge the support of our sponsors, Byrne, Carlin, Cunningham Solicitors, Action Physio, Bay Sports and a Shamrock Lodge Hotel. And I'd also like to mention my colleagues in the Westmeath Independent, in particular Emma Larkin Keys and Amanda Brady for their support, and Mary McGuigan for organising these events. I'll now pass you over to Kieran Galvin.
Thanks, Tyke. Now, just before we get into the actual awards, I'll just explain the 5 award categories we have as part of the awards. Our first award we'll present is the Young Sportsperson of the Year Award. Then we will have the Team of the Year. Then we will have an Outstanding Achievement Award. That'll be followed by the Hall of Fame Award. And the final award will be the Overall Sportsperson of the Year. Now we have our first presentation of the award ceremony, and that's the Young Sportsperson of the Year Award. And our Young Sportsperson of the Year Award winner is Dara McGuinness. Dara McGuinness from Monksland was selected on the Republic of Ireland under-16 squad early last year. He made his debut in the Aegean Cup in Turkey against Tanzania, and then he scored 2 goals against Kosovo in the next game. Dara started his football career as a youngster with St Joseph's here in Athlone, and he also made his debut in the League of Ireland last season for Shamrock Rovers in the First Division. Dara goes to school in Colosh, the west side of Athlone. He's in his 5th year there, 17 years of age. So you're welcome, Dara, to join us, and congratulations on your award.
Thanks very much.
Dara, you were selected on the Ireland under-16 squad last year. Did that selection come as a surprise? And I'm sure it was a huge thrill to be picked for the Ireland team.
Yeah, it was a huge thrill. It did come as a bit of a surprise, as we were just in the camp here in Shamrock Lodge, so we played a game against Athlone here, and then later on that day we got the email saying, oh, you've been selected, so that was a very good surprise anyways.
Yeah, and I suppose for any young player starting off, the ambition of representing your country is a huge ambition, or it's a dream come true for a lot of people, so it must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, it was a great feeling, especially when you win a game or score a goal, that's
yeah. And yet to score 2 goals in that match, obviously that made it even more special.
That did make it special, yeah.
Yeah.
The thrill I got from that was very good.
Yeah, and obviously with that squad you have Paul Ozam as manager, and I'm sure he's been a positive influence on you.
He was a very good influence on me, yeah. I like Paul there.
Yeah, and I suppose, Dara, you started off with St Joseph's, you moved to Belvedere and St Patrick's Athletic and then Shamrock Rovers, so I'm sure there's a lot of different coaches. You played with the ADSL and the Kennedy Cup and other competitions, so maybe mention some of the people that were involved in your journey, some of the coaches, some of the influences you had along the way.
Some of the coaches along the way, I had Mike Campion, Damien Kelly at St Joseph's, and at ADSL I had Mousy, and Porrick Quinn, they were good as well. I also did Young Lions as well, that was a camp in Moat, so Frank Ferry was very good, and then Mick Early up in Belvedere, he was a very good influence. In Rovers, all the coaches are a very good influence. That was the same in Pats,
And you made your debut in the League of Ireland for the Shamrock Rovers second team, which was another great experience for you. But then I suppose COVID-19, a pandemic, Dara, last year cast a big shadow over sport. How difficult has it been, the various lockdowns, coping without games?
I haven't found it too bad this lockdown. Last lockdown I found it harder, but I think it's just getting used to it. Rovers send us on work to do every day basically, so we have to send that through once we do our runs and stuff.
Yeah.
We have Zoom classes.
And when you eventually do get back playing, what will be your hopes and your ambitions for this season, whenever it does finally start, Dara?
Hopefully to score a couple of goals, and hopefully the team gets far in the league.
And would your target be the Shamrock Rovers under-19s, or what sort of grade would you be hoping to make an impact in next when the games return?
Hopefully I'm playing with Shamrock Rovers 19s next year.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dara, and congratulations again on being chosen as the Young Sportsperson of the Year for 2020. That's Dara McGuinness from Monksland. Our next award as part of our award ceremony is the Team of the Year award, and our Team of the Year is the Moore Community School Senior Ladies Football Team, who built on their Leinster title success by going on to reach the All-Ireland Senior A final. However, in a year when the COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc on so many sporting activities, the team never got to play in that All-Ireland final. That was because the Ladies Gaelic Football Association cancelled all the post-primary schools competitions due to the COVID-19 outbreak, and despite the heartfelt pleas from the Moore Community School camp, their final was never played. The Moore ladies were due to play Loreto SS Clonmel in their All-Ireland final just over a year ago. Moore Community School have been a rising force in ladies football in recent years. In 2019 they won an All-Ireland Schools Junior B title, and they built on that then by winning the Leinster Senior A title. We're joined by the Moore Community School captain from last year's team, that's Roisin Ennis from Ballycumber, and soon we'll be hearing from Emma Kelly from Rosemount. So first of all, Roisin, the team captain, I suppose for you it must have been a wonderful honour to captain the team, a group of girls who you'd known from when you first went into the school and played in a number of Leinster finals, but to captain them to win a Leinster senior title must have been a huge honour.
Yeah, it's something else, I suppose. It's not really a big deal. Well, it's a massive deal to be like a captain, but any one of the girls could have been a captain. Like, they all had leadership qualities and everything. I was just kind of motivating them before the matches more than anything, because they're all very, very skillful players, and it was a big, big honour to be a captain of such an amazing team full of such good quality and high standard players like that wanted to do nothing but win and play for each other on the pitch.
Yeah, and you finally got over the line winning a Leinster senior title, and I suppose on the other hand then, how disappointing was it not to get to play in that Ireland final?
Oh, I don't think words can describe how disappointing it was. We had a few heartbreaks over the years, just getting to Leinster finals and being defeated in the last few minutes, most of them. And just to get over the line when the Leinster final was something else, but it was nearly taken away from us when we couldn't get to play the All-Ireland. I suppose we set goals to get to the Leinster final, and when we won it, we wanted to go the whole way. Then there was no stopping us, and we were on a winning streak, and to get it taken away from us was just really, really sickening as well as disappointing.
Yeah. You're now a student at DCU, Roisin, and with your club Naomh Ciarán, you've won a number of Offaly County titles, and you had the honour of winning an All-Ireland intermediate there in 2019 with that club. What are your hopes in sporting terms for this year when games eventually do resume?
I suppose play a football match this year will be one. Yeah. But I would love to be playing with the college as well. That's another big year, I suppose, to be looking forward to. Playing at that high standard would be unbelievable. I suppose to keep doing well with Naomh Ciarán as well, keep winning our county finals and get on maybe to another Leinster as well, it'd be really, really good.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us, Roisin. Now we'll ask Emma, the vice captain, Emma Kelly from last year's team. And as Roisin mentioned, Emma, how disappointed the team was not getting to play that final, and I know the Moore Community School team and the management did all in their power to get to play it. I think the management team wrote to the LGFA, yourself and Roisin wrote as well separately, and your teammate Shannon Mulvey had even wrote to the Sports Minister. So it was no lack of effort on your part, but has the passage of time made it easier to accept that decision, or would you all still have that disappointment?
Yeah, so no, I don't really think so. I don't think we'll ever get over it. It's such a big thing. You do dream of getting to an All-Ireland final. You dream of winning an All-Ireland final, and it'll always be, what if we got to play the final, would we have won? And I think a lot of us, we always say we'd rather play it and get absolutely hammered than not play it at all. At least, you gave it your best shot. But, people say time is a healer, and I don't think we'll ever fully get over it, but we will, we'll never forget about the team, but we'll learn to kind of focus on what we accomplished rather than what we missed. We were knocking on the door for too long, there trying to get over that Leinster, and we finally did, and that was my big fear going into 6th year. It was our last year, and it was like, what if we don't even get to the Leinster final this year, and we did, and we got over the line. So I suppose in the whole thing you do kind of forget how big of an achievement it was to get, we were the top team in Leinster and we were joint first in Ireland, so we'll never get over it, but we'll always have the memories and that achievement, nobody can take that away from us. So.
Yeah. And Emma, I know that your grandfather Paddy Buckley, he played as a star footballer for both Maryland and Westmeath years ago, and it was a big influence on you, and sadly Paddy passed away last year. But I know he always took a big interest in how you were doing in football, and I'm sure you still remember his words of encouragement.
God, yeah, no, Grandad was definitely one of the biggest sporting influences on me, and he still is, you know, when he's gone. He was at every single semi-final and final that we lost. You know, he always left early because he could never bear to see me as distraught after, and everybody who knew Grandad knew he was just completely obsessed with Gaelic, and he rarely kind of kept his opinion to himself. But so for the safety of everybody, he left early. But he wasn't at the final, you know. He used to pick me up after every loss and he'd say, I'd see you lift to Leinster before I go. And I used to joke with him and say, actually, you'll see me pick 2 or 3, because I didn't think he'd leave us as soon. But the fact that he got to see us, he wasn't there at the match due to illness, but he seen us. He was the first person to bring me on the bus after we won, so that means a lot to me that he was there to see that, you know, because he takes such pride in his grandchildren and everything they do, and especially the GAA. So.
Yeah. I mentioned Roisin and the success she enjoyed with her club. And you were part of the Westmeath squad last year. They got to the All-Ireland final now. The final didn't go your way, but it must have been a valuable learning experience for you to be part of that squad.
Yeah, it was. And look, sure, at the start we didn't really know what was going to happen, so we were just grateful to get back on the pitch. But we really did have a great campaign, and you know, there's an inspirational bunch of players there. You know, we had 4 girls in team of the championship, and Claff was named or was nominated for player of the championship. You know, so. I took huge pride in being a part of that panel, you know, going up to Croke Park. It was weird, like, because it's so empty, and you know, you say I've never played in a full Croke Park, but it was very strange that there was nobody up there and no family around you or anything. But we look to go again this year now and finally get over the line in that All-Ireland final and get back up senior, I think, where we belong. You know, we played Division 1 National League, so we want to get back up playing the best of the best in the championship as well.
Very good, Emma, thank you very much. And now we will ask Fidelma, who is Fidelma Nolan, a teacher with the Indo Community School and also part of the management team, and she was joined on the management team by Niall Daly, Patrice Smith and Michelle Delaney. Now, Fidelma, you were with those girls all the way through many years, many Leinster finals, just a few disappointments on the way before you finally got over the line last year at senior level, so that must have been hugely satisfying to get that Leinster title.
Yeah, I suppose we've had coached the girls for 6 years, and I suppose in a way Roisin and Emma were, and that group of Leaving Certs were kind of unfortunate in that they came so close to so many under-16 finals, and I think we lost 3 consecutive finals very, very narrowly. So I suppose, and then the group of players that were coming behind them seemed to have constant success. So it was a case of marrying the past success of the younger girls with the experience and I suppose the desire to win of the older girls. And last year was the year that we planned to do that, and I suppose it worked to perfection. And it was actually beautiful to see so many girls who hadn't really won anything and yet had played and given so much to the school. It was for us a really special moment that day in the fog in Tullamore, and one that we'll never forget.
And then winning that All-Ireland semi-final March of last year, Fidelma, I suppose the joy of winning it and talking about an All-Ireland final, I was at the game myself, that joy I suppose was soon changed into the uncertainty. The school was closed I think within days to pupils, and then the uncertainty about playing the game and ultimately not played. So I suppose it was mixed emotions straight away, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I suppose once we won the Leinster, our absolute aim became the All-Ireland, and for us it was the ultimate next final. So we were nervous going into play Cavan because they had a huge amount of experience and pedigree behind them. They'd won numerous All-Irelands, but I suppose we hit the ground running that day, and we were just so ecstatic to get over the line and to be in an All-Ireland. Like, in a way, we'd have all said it almost surpassed winning the Leinster because it was just such an absolutely unbelievable feeling. And I think we had like a day to digest it, and then the schools shut down. To say we were left reeling, not only by obviously the pandemic, you know, and the revelation of the potential damage that was going to happen, but just the fact that we barely had the jerseys washed, and we were planning for an All-Ireland the following week, and just everything was suddenly taken away from us. So I'd say I've never gone from such ecstasy to agony in such a short space of time, and nor have the girls and the management team.
Yeah. And I suppose when any team goes through a disappointment, the old cliche sometimes is trotted out, there's always next year. But I suppose in the case of the team, you know, especially Leaving Certs and Roisin and Emma, whom we've heard of, are in their last year, they've since gone on to third level. There's no next year for 6 years. And obviously the COVID-19 pandemic is still affecting everybody's lives at the moment. Yeah. So I suppose, similar question that I asked to the 2 girls, I suppose, how you feel about it now? Has the passage of time eased it, or is that disappointment still there, rankling in the background?
No, I spoke with the management team the other night, and we were all saying that, you know, it's probably the hardest sporting disappointment that we've all had to endure, not just as management, but even we've all played ourselves, and Niall is obviously still playing. And we're really struggling to get over it, or really struggling to put it behind us. And I suppose, you know, when March, the month of March came in, all I could think of was this time last year we were getting ready for the All-Ireland semi, and actually this weekend would be the year to the date of the All-Ireland, this Saturday. So while we're absolutely delighted and honoured to accept the award today, and we're so grateful to the Westmeath Independent for so much support throughout the year, and particularly throughout the campaign where we tried to, you know, get the All-Ireland played, there is massive disappointment, and I'm not sure when it's going to abate, but maybe over time it will.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Vidalma and to Roisin and to Emma for joining us, and I think a very worthy team of the year, the Morton Community School team, and I think their selection probably reflects the year that we've all endured in sport, with where COVID-19 has had such a dramatic impact on sport. So the worthy team of the year, the Morton Community School Senior Ladies Football Team of 2020. Our next award, as part of our awards ceremony, is an Outstanding Achievement Award, and our Outstanding Achievement Award winner is Rory Fallon. Rory, at the tender age of 17, played a key role in St Bridget's winning the Roscommon Senior Football title. St Bridget's had a number of young guns in their ranks, as well as Rory, and they took the championship by storm, and they went on to win it out, defeating the previous year's champions, Pádraig Pearses, in the final. Rory showed maturity beyond his years to play a key role in the triumph. He also was part of the Bridges team that won the minor county title. It was their 5th in a row. And the Curraboy teenager was on the Roscommon under-20 team that reached the Connacht final. Rory has previously captained his school, Smarus College, to Leinster success at juvenile level, and he's also a talented rugby player, starring with both Buccaneers and indeed Marist College. So Rory, we'll just turn to you now. I suppose there was a number of young players in that Bridget's team last year, as well as yourself. Ben O'Carroll comes to mind, a few others. How much of a help was it to have young lads around your own age who you were used to coming up along with you as part of the team as you were trying to break through at senior level?
Yeah, it made the transition a bit easier coming in, and what I think benefited us hugely was the younger lads were so used to winning for previous years, so it brought that sense to the team, and the older lads even fed off that in some ways. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure those older experienced guys, you know, Roland Stack was team captain, a lot of those guys probably were a great help to you in terms of guiding you along and giving you a little bit of advice.
We learned a huge amount over the year. You'd be surprised how much you'd develop over the year, and you'd be bringing it back to minor then, and it'd just kind of spread out through all the ages. But I can't give enough credit to the older lads, how much they helped the likes of me and Ben and the younger lads this year.
Yeah. And I know your dad Willie played for the club, and he played for Roscommon as well, and your uncles John and Pat Murray played for Moat and Westmeath. How big of an influence has your family been into you in terms of sport?
It's so hard to zone in on one person who's an influence, obviously, but my family and even the club as a collective, everyone has helped so much over time, you know, to develop, and it's just the interest that everyone shows, which is huge for me. You know, you can feed off that, and that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. And your uncle John Murray was part of the management team last year, of course. So that was good to have maybe somebody in there to guide you and that knew you so well.
It was, yeah. It was, and it's just as I said, the transition. We kind of looked at it at the start of the year, and I don't know whether it was nerves or things like that, but you look at some of them players and you remember when you were 10 or 11 years of age going to Bridget's games, watching them lads play, like Peter Dominican, and playing with lads like Senan Kilbride, and that is massive, like, you know. But knowing people that were involved with the team and that, like, just made the transition a whole lot easier, and everyone helping out. So it was
absolutely. And looking at schools level, I suppose the Marist on paper looked like they have a very strong team this year, and I suppose how disappointing was it for you that you didn't get to compete in a Leinster Championship this year with the Marist in your last year?
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing. I was captain of the team as well, so I felt like we nearly felt, I don't know, it's hard to describe. When we found out the news, there was distraught throughout the school, like, you know, and we were talking to lads from other schools, and they weren't half as prepared as we were. Like, schools were not sure whether to train or anything like that. We were putting in the hard yards over the winter, not sure whether the championship was going to happen or not, because we had a very talented group there, and we had success at juvenile level, as you said. So we were unhappy how but look, there's nothing you can do, I suppose.
Yeah, and how have you found in general, I suppose, coping without sport, the various lockdowns we've had, Rory? It's been tough for everybody across society, really, no matter whether they're in sport or not, to dealing with all of the restrictions.
It's very tough, very tough, because I find it hardest to, let's say, get up every day and train and keep training and training when you've nothing to aim for. I find it easier when there's something to aim for like that, but we're at a stage now, especially with the Bridget senior team, like no one is dropping the mark. So you can't afford to not train or that, because when football does come back, you'll be so many further steps behind everyone else. So that's what I think is huge as well. Everyone's keeping things going and keeping training. So
yeah. You're also quite a talented rugby player, Rory. You've played for Buccaneers, you've played Morris College. I think you won a Connor Schools Junior Cup with them and played Senior Cup with them as well, and you've been, I think, involved with Connacht at underage. Is it difficult to combine the two sports, and is Gaelic football going to be your main focus from now on?
Yeah, it's, as you said, it is difficult. You have to be very good with your time management, and you learn after a while as well you can't please everyone every single time, so you have to kind of put yourself first in some scenarios as well, and obviously school as well and things like that. There's stuff you have to mind and watch there, but as you said, yeah, it's a decision I'll have to make, and that a tough one it is, but I'm not fully sure yet of what route I'm going to go with. But whatever route I do go with, I know both sides will still support my decision, so that's the main thing.
You mentioned school there, Rory, and obviously you're preparing for your leaving cert at the moment, so that's the priority, I suppose, at the moment. What are your hopes for later in the year when games eventually resume? What sort of hopes or ambitions do you have? For, let's say, the club, Bridget's,
see, I feel myself now that before last season we came in and as you know yourself, as underdogs, we were working outrageously hard when other teams were hemming and hawing a bit and not even training. We came under the radar there, but there was no doubt internally. There was the only doubt was, from people coming in looking at the team. But I think it's going to be similar enough this year as well. With the work everyone's putting in, we've got players back. Like Paura Kelly is back this year. Niall McInerney is back fit. There's players been added in. Shane Canan, another young player, added in. So I think if anything, we're just going to get better this year. There's competition is going to be through the roof, and everyone's going to be driven on. And the main thing is the short-term goal is to retain the county championship this year. So.
And I suppose at Roscommon, we don't know at the moment, a lot of uncertainty. Even last year's Roscommon Minors, I think you were just slightly overage for that particular team, but they have to play their All-Ireland semi-final, and then this year's Roscommon under-20 team, everybody doesn't know what's going to happen. So I suppose it's a waiting game in terms of when games can resume.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of uncertainty over it all, and as I said, you just have to kind of keep the head down and keep going, because when it does come back, then you don't want to be behind where everyone else is. So, and as you said with the Roscommon under-20s, they're sending out work as well the whole time and everything, so we just have to keep it ticking over for now.
Thank you very much, Rory. Well, that's congratulations to Rory, our Outstanding Achievement Award winner. I think Rory is a name to watch out for both at club and county level in the future. So we thank Rory for joining us and congratulate him on his award. Our next award recipient in our awards ceremony here this evening is the Hall of Fame Award. And our Hall of Fame winner this year is Seamus Nugent, a legendary figure in the local area and someone who has made a huge contribution to sport in the Athlone area, both on and off the playing field. Seamus was a key player on the famous Athlone team, which won 6 Westmeath Senior Championships in a row from 1955 to 1960. He missed out on playing in the championship wins of 1959 and 60 after he sustained serious knee injuries in an accident. He was the captain, team captain 1958. And indeed, Seamus was held in the highest esteem by his playing colleagues. A look through the archives revealed that when the Athlone team won in 1959, they made a detour to Tullamore Hospital after winning the victory so they could share their victory with Seamus, who was recovering in hospital at the time. Seamus was a stylish footballer known for his sportsmanship, and he also represented Westmeath with distinction. He played both minor and hurling and football for Westmeath, and his first championship medal was all the way back in 1953 minor hurling championship. Off the pitch, Seamus has also made a huge contribution to Gaelic games in the Athlone area. Back in 1981, Seamus was part of a group of people, founder member of Garrycastle GAA Club. He saw a need for another club, him and a number of other visionaries at the time, for another club in the area to cater for the growing population, and from its humble beginnings the club has gone from strength to strength, with Seamus one of the club presidents to this day. So Seamus, I'll ask Seamus to come forward now. Seamus, you were part of that great Athlone team, 6 championships in a row. You were captain in 1958. You must have great memories, and you must have played with some great players as part of that team.
Yeah, that's right, Karen. Yeah.
What
Great
memories stands
memories.
out for you? Is the 58 one because you were captain, or
Well,
did it blend in?
yeah, 57 I was, 57, yeah. That was one of the days I think I scored 6 pints or something.
Yeah.
So it was, well, being captain was a great honour, you know.
Yeah.
I was also captain in 59, but on to
Yeah.
a serious injury. I missed that, you know.
Yeah, and I believe the person who stood in for you, he's sadly no longer with us, but was a famous player as well, Michael Scanlan,
Yeah.
1959 as captain, and you mentioned some other great players there, Sean Fogarty and various others that you would have played with, Seamus.
Yeah, that's right. Michael now, Scanlan, he was a great buddy of mine as well, apart from the football. We social together and all that type of thing. And we had some great memories. And we had Sean Fogarty, Jimmy Reynolds, Bernie Coakley and Francie, Tommy Hinson and Kieran, Eddie Martin, Brother Jared, who's still around, Father Kieran Ryan, and Father Liam Hickey, and Kieran Hunt, John McCann, Pat McCormick, Butcher,
Yeah.
and Harry Murta, Henry Cuff. A lot of them, I'm afraid, they're not around any longer, you know.
Yeah, some great
But
names.
they're great. TJ Finner, now
Yeah.
TJ and I were centrefield in 1958. Brilliant player, TJ.
Yeah. And it's just a great roll call of names there, Seamus, and it's great that you have those memories, I suppose, of soldiering with those guys and playing with them. And I suppose that accident in 1959, that must have been very hard to recover from, but you did recover.
It was. I suppose it was lucky man since I wasn't killed there. There was nobody else really badly injured in the accident, you know. But it was, even after having the accident, I was still thought I was going to be playing in the county final in 59, but little did I know I was going to be the next 7 weeks in Tullamore Hospital, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the way things turned out, you know.
And I think you actually, you lost your right kneecap as part of that accident, in a lorry accident. That's a serious injury at any time, and then maybe medicine wasn't what it is today,
No,
so
not
the
today.
recovery was slow
It
and
was
long,
that-
I'd say.
It was that badly broken, I think. I remember the surgeon saying to me, if it had only been cracked or that they would have been able to, but it was in smithereens, as the fellow says, you know. And there was nothing more they could do it when they removed it, you know.
Yeah. You also played for Westmeath, Seamus, and I suppose intercounty football was very different then than it is now. What kind of recollections do you have from that time?
Yeah, well, I had some great times there. We never won that much, but it was great. I played minor hurling, minor football, junior football, senior football for Westmeath up to the time of the accident. But then I was selected right half forward in the North Leinster team in 1958. You know, we played South Leinster down in Carlow.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Another great honour.
It was a great honour because it was more than surprised to be picked, and I said, God, I'm on my depth here, you know, when I seen who was on the team. Ollie Freeney, Kevin Heffer, they were on that same team, you know.
Yeah.
So it was great to be playing with those lads, but I thought myself I was on my depth nearly.
Yeah. You've a great recollection of some of those names, Seamus, and you've great memories, which is great to be able to call on those, and it's great to be in such good health. And I believe you've had the second vaccination, so you're fighting fit still.
Fighting fit still, yeah.
Yeah. And off the pitch then, Seamus, back in 1981, there was other people involved, you know, the late Dan Hogan and various others, I know, in the foundation of Gary Castle.
Jack Field, and Jack and I are joint presidents at the moment in the last few years, you know. They were fantastic people now, you know. We felt that at that time that there was so many young players coming through and all that, you know, that there was room for a second team, you know. It wasn't not that we had anything, I had definitely had nothing against that loan because I had a wonderful time there, you know, but we felt that there was so many young players coming through, you know, and today I suppose it has been proved that it was the right decision to make, you know.
And you must be immensely proud, Seamus, that Gary Castle Club has won 8 senior championships, they won a Leinster title, and if they've come a long way from the early days, the humble beginnings, to really establish themselves as such a big, successful club.
It was great, and they went to the Leinster final, and they went to the All-Ireland final and drew it Crossmaglen in the final, and even though they were beaten in the replay, but I think it was a great, and the president Roscommon manager was training at that time, Anthony Cunningham, and he was a trainer, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a great,
Yeah.
great for that.
And speaking of Roscommon, I believe your son Enda is going to manage the Roscommon Minors this year. Your grandson Bobby won a Connacht Minor medal. Your other sons, Fergal and Michael and Dermot, have all played football. So you must be delighted the way the family has kept on the sporting tradition of the Nugent family.
All the family were involved in sport, boys and girls.
Yeah.
And the girls now, Enda's daughter as well, she's a very good player. And Denise Dunnigan now, Joe, and Ben, they're all involved in sport really, you know.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, and indeed, obviously, you're, as well as sport, well known for Nugent's shop over the years, and your daughter Denise, along with her husband Joe Donegan, kept that shop going until recent times. It's still standing there, but out of the family. But great memories too from your time meeting people and dealing with the customers, and all of that went with that, Seamus.
Oh yeah, it was great really. It was a kind of a meeting place when the club started first, because we had no pitch, we had no even on one occasion, I think we had a club meeting in one of our in the house. We had no rest. So and then Athlone were very good to us early on. They let us use their pitch for training and all that, you know. And I think we even had some functions in that Athlone clubhouse that time, which I thought was, you know, I know maybe some people didn't agree with Gary Cass starting up and that, but the majority of the people now looked at it on the prior side.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier, Seamus, that Michael Scanlan, as well as a teammate, was a good colleague of yours, and I can tell you that he's a previous Hall of Fame recipient in this particular Hall of Honour. So you're joining a great list of names, and you can, including Michael. So I think here we have a very fitting and very deserving Hall of Fame recipient in Seamus Nugent, and very deserving. And we thank Seamus for joining us and wish him continued good health into the future. We now come to the final award in our awards ceremony, and that's the overall Sportsperson of the Year award in the 2020 Westmeath Independent Sports Awards. And I suppose before we announce the overall winner, it's worth recalling that the previous winners include such renowned names as Robbie Henshaw, Joe Ward, Desi Dolan, Mark Rohan and John Keane, to name but a few. So the winner is following in some very illustrious footsteps. And so, the overall Westmeath Independent Sportsperson of the Year award winner for 2020 is Bevin Parsons. Bevin has been chosen for the award by virtue of the sensational impact she made for the Ireland women's rugby team last year. The youngest player to be capped by Ireland at senior level, at the tender age of 16, Bevin's amazing intercept try against Scotland was one of the highlights of Ireland's campaign. The Ballinasloe native enjoyed a tremendous season with Ireland, and balancing international rugby with her studies, she scored 3 tries for Ireland during the 2020 campaign. Despite having to opt out of part of the Six Nations to concentrate on her Leaving Cert, Bevin was selected as the Rugby Writers of Ireland Women's Rugby Player of the Year. She's now studying biomedical science at UCD, and Bevin is part of the current Ireland Women's Rugby squad, which is preparing for their rescheduled 2021 Six Nations campaign. We'll now hear from Bevin in an interview that we recorded earlier. Okay, I'm delighted to be joined by Bevin Parsons, the overall winner in the 2020 Westmeath Independent Sports Awards. Many congratulations, Bevin, on the award and indeed on the great season you had last year with Ireland.
Thanks very much, Kieran. Thanks for having me as well.
I suppose, Bevin, that brilliant try, that intercept try against Scotland last year was really a standout moment, and it was one of 3 tries you got in the championship. What do you remember about that particular try and that match?
Yeah, you know, that was surreal to get that try over the line. I think it was fruits of our hard labour with our defensive system. You know, we worked really hard on getting aggressive line speed and coming up off the line. So it might have looked like an individual try, but it was definitely a team effort that we trained on leading up to that match. So I was just really proud to get it over the line.
Yeah. And you were first called up to the Ireland squad at the age of 16, Bevin. I think you're the youngest player to play for Ireland, women's or men's rugby. So that must have been a huge thrill to be called up at such a young age. But was it a little bit daunting also, mixing in with the established Irish players?
Yeah, you know, I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't extremely intimidated or, you know, awestruck when I first came into the squad. It was a huge leap from what I'd trained and played at before. But the girls were so welcoming, and the coaches and the management really, took me under their wing for the first part of my transition onto that squad, and they made it a lot easier than it probably should have or could have been. So I'm really grateful for them.
Yeah, you started your rugby with Ballinasloe Club, and I'm sure there's great support within the club, Bevin, great encouragement right from the start.
Yeah, there was. The girls I played with were always watching my matches and supporting me, and then I was always on the phone to coaches asking them technical things, so I always had the support of the club behind me.
Yeah. Last year during the campaign, Bevin, you took a decision to opt out for a period of the Six Nations because you were preparing for your leaving cert. How difficult a decision was that to make?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I probably didn't need to opt out because I never got to sit the Leaving Cert in the end. But with the knowledge that I had, the Leaving Cert was a huge thing for me. I really wanted to do well in school, and I knew that there will be more matches to come. But the Leaving Cert, I don't want to have to repeat that or to do it again. So it was definitely a tough decision to make. But inevitably, I knew that I really wanted to focus on my Leaving Cert, coming up to my orals and practicals and that type of thing. I needed to give it time. So I just sat down with the coaches and we had, an honest discussion and a chat. And they, I'm so grateful for how open-minded they were. They sort of gave me free rein and allowed me to choose what matches and trainings I could go to and make. And, at the end of the day, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to manage the two up until that point. So yeah, it was a tough decision to make, definitely, but my coaches and my teammates backed it in the end.
Yeah, the Leaving Cert was very different for all students last year, but obviously things went very well for you, Bevin, and you're studying biomedical science in UCD. And I noticed your mother, Evelyn, is a doctor as well as a public representative, and your dad, Vincent, is a radiologist in Fort Youngula. So you're following the medical field. Your parents' example, I suppose, probably played a part in that maybe as well.
Yeah, I suppose it has, maybe subconsciously more than anything. Following down the medical stream, it's something I always wanted to do. So yeah, no, I'm happy that I ended up here in the end.
Yeah. Ireland begin the rescheduled 2021 Six Nations, Bevin, shortly, and April the 10th, the first match, I think, is away to Wales, and then you have a home match against France. Obviously, you're busy in training at the moment. What are your hopes and ambitions for the campaign to come?
Yeah, this is definitely the most competitive squad I've ever been a part of. There's a huge, huge competition for jerseys. There's an incredible, buzz in camp, and everyone's really fighting for that jersey and that starting position. So my personal hopes is to get onto the match day squad, hopefully get, as close to a starting position as I can, and then on a wider scale, we've been training for so long. We feel like we're ready to really put up a big performance against Wales, get a good few points on them, and then we won't go into the France match feeling like underdogs. I think we're trained and we're ready, and we really want to perform in that match.
Yeah, you've also played sevens rugby, Bevin, haven't you? How have you found the transition or the difference between sevens to 15s rugby?
Yeah, I think it's quite transferable. You're still playing with an egg-shaped ball at the end of the day. You still have to tackle. Yeah, of course, it's a different mindset going into a sevens match compared to a 15s one. But I think, being able to train with both teams is really helpful and really beneficial for me. So I'm glad I got the experience and the exposure on both sides.
And Bevin, I suppose 2020 was a big year for women's sport. There was the whole 2020 campaign. If she can't see it, she can't be it, all of that. And a lot of focus has been placed on the sport. And women's sport in general, women's rugby has come a long way. How do you see things now, and maybe what can change, what can happen in the next few years to bring things on to another level?
Yeah, I think we'll look back on 2020 as a monumental year for women's sport. For me personally, and everyone I know are so much more invested in women's sport, and because we can actually see it in the media and it's in the limelight. So it's been a huge year for women's sport. I think we're headed in the right direction with facilities becoming equal and getting equal opportunities. So I think if we just stay driving and using this momentum, we'll propel forward. It'll be a great thing for women's sport. Yeah, I think it's been an amazing year, and you have to thank all the people that were behind that 20 by 20 campaign, because at the end of the day they sort of started this snowball effect that's come to light now.
Indeed, Bevin, I can tell you you're the third female winner of the overall award in a row, actually, and Michelle Claffey, who you played rugby with for Ireland, was a previous winner, so you're following some good footsteps there.
Yeah, if you're in the same category as Michelle Claffey, you're definitely doing something right.
Well, very good, and thank you very much, Bevin, for joining us, and many congratulations again on being chosen as the overall sports person of the year in the Westmeath Independent Sports Awards for 2020, and we wish you and all your colleagues the very, very best of luck in the upcoming 2021 Six Nations and continued success in the future.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
Thank you. Now, before we wrap up our awards ceremony for this evening, I want to once again thank our sponsors for their support enabling these awards to go ahead, and those sponsors are Action Physio, Byrne, Carolyn Cunningham Solicitors, Bay Sports and the Shamrock Lodge Hotel, the host venue for the awards for several years, who also again supported us this year. We're very conscious that it was a hugely challenging year last year for local businesses, and we're very grateful for the loyal support of those local businesses for coming on board. I'd also like to thank Mary McGuigan, Group Commercial Manager of Celtic Media, the parent company of the Westmeath Independent, for all her work in relation to the awards, and all my colleagues in both editorial and advertising. We heard from Ty Carey, our editor, earlier. We want to thank all them for their input. Each of the winners received a beautifully engraved trophy from Athlone Crystal, and we thank Athlone Crystal for their support for the awards. We'd also like to thank everybody for joining us online this evening for the awards ceremony, and all our loyal readers and advertisers for their support throughout 2020 and indeed into 2021. We do realise it's been a hugely challenging year and continues to be for so many local businesses, so we're very grateful for their ongoing support. We thank you once again for joining us for this unusual and different awards ceremony, and let's hope next year we'll be able to celebrate the sporting achievement of all of our talented local sports people in the traditional manner. Thank you again, and good night.